Hey, what is up internet? Welcome back to the channel. So as promised, I got the Pixel 8, and if you have been watching my videos for long enough, you would know why I didn't go for the 8 Pro. Now, despite Google's really poor pricing strategy for the Pixel 8 in India, I thought I will still give this a try. So I've been using this little guy for the last 2 days. And here is everything I think about the Pixel 8 so far. Alright, you know that I like compact phones, right? That is the exact reason I was using the Galaxy S23 before this and the Asus Zenfone 9 before that. So when the leaks came in that Google is planning to reduce the size of the Pixel 8 this year, I got really excited. Now this is how the hazel color variant looks like in all its flesh. We get a matte metal frame surrounding the phone, but we also get a glossy glass back. Now I'm not really a fan of glossy glass backs, but this hazel color does not really show a lot of fingerprints or smudges, to be honest. But then we also have this camera bump or the camera visor, whatever you may want to call it, which is also the part of the same metal frame surrounding the phone. Now overall, I really like this design, even though I have to be honest with you, I'm rocking a Spigen case from day one. But despite using the case, I have to say the Pixel 8 does not feel very big in the hands. It is slightly taller and narrower when compared to the S23, but the overall form factor is actually very similar to S23 or even iPhone 15 for that matter. Now the curved edges on the back makes it even more slightly comfortable when you hold it in the hands without a case, but perhaps my biggest learning curve when switching from the S23 to Pixel 8 was the button placement. Now unlike the S23, the power button on the Pixel 8 is above the volume rockers. Again, I don't think it's a big deal, but I have to say it did take me a couple of hours at least to get used to it. But that aside, these buttons are extremely tactile. I also see a lot of antenna bands all across the frame, so I'm hoping for a better cellular reception on the Pixel 8. More about that in a bit, but overall I really like how the Pixel 8 feels and look in the hands. But if we flip the phone around, let's talk about my favorite part about the Pixel 8, that is its display. Now I feel Google has really gone all out with the displays on the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro. Now the one we get here is 6.2 inches AMOLED, HDR10 plus support, 120Hz refresh rate and 2000 nits of peak brightness. Now of course the colors and everything are on point for sure, but this display can actually get really bright both indoors and outdoors. Now unfortunately this is not an LTPO display. I would have liked at least a variable refresh rate display, but as far as I know, this can only stay at 120Hz or 60Hz. In fact, when I first unboxed the Pixel 8, it was actually set at 60Hz. But overall, I haven't faced any lags or frame drops or jitters in the past 2 days. But I still think it's too soon to actually come to a conclusion about this display. I would want to use it more extensively both indoors and outdoors. But what I have come to a conclusion is about the speakers on the Pixel 8. The speaker output on the Pixel 8 is great. I would say it's probably one of the best on any Android device. I think it's almost as close to iPhone 15 as one can be, but you be the best judge here. Have a listen. Now this combined with again one of the best haptics on any Android device, it really affects the day-to-day usage and experience in my opinion, because not a lot of phones can actually nail these things, the speaker quality, the haptics. And with that, I think so far Pixel 8 I feel is more close to iPhone 15 when we look at Android's perspective than the Galaxy S23. And this is where I think the user interface has a huge role to play. I know a lot of you out there would actually go and test out the phone for its raw performance, but I am someone who would actually go and prefer a stable software over raw performance. And Pixel 8, I would say, has kind of delivered on it so far. Again, it might be too soon, but Pixel UI on top of Android 14 with the new Tensor G3 chipset is feeling smooth and snappy so far. The animations, unlike Samsung, are already well refined and polished, and even though I noticed sometimes Instagram would take half a second more to open, I don't think it's a big deal right now. And I say right now especially because I'm really curious to see how Pixel 8 with this new Tensor G3 chipset ages over time, because things in the past haven't been the best with Pixel devices when it comes to aging, and I'm especially curious this time because Google is promising 7 years of software updates with this little guy. But okay, let's address the elephant in the room. How is the Tensor G3 when it comes to thermals? I would say it's definitely better than G2. but it is still nowhere close to when it comes to Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 levels. Now my Pixel 8 has been running relatively cool. I didn't really notice it getting abnormally warm, just except if I'm using a lot of mobile data outdoors or if I'm clicking a lot of pictures and videos outdoors. It does tend to get a little warm, but nothing abnormally warm, and there is a reason behind it. I think Google is throttling the Tensor G3 a little too much this time, and I'm not sure if they're scared or something like that, but I feel we are losing out a little bit on the potential on the G3 that can actually offer in the performance department, because as you can see in the thermal throttling test, it actually starts to throttle within 1 minute, which is not ideal, especially if you plan to actually game a lot on Pixel 8. But I don't think a lot of people actually buy Pixels for gaming. What they do buy Pixels is for the camera performance. So how is the new camera system on the Pixel 8? Now honestly, I didn't really get a lot of chance to play with the AI features, but I did shoot some pictures from the new Pixel 8, and I would say the picture quality overall is up there with iPhone 15 and S23. Now some shots might look dull, especially when compared to the S23, but Samsung usually tries to oversaturate their pictures to make it more pleasing to the eyes. Pixel, on the other hand, is more true to the actual colors of the scene, and that is actually not a bad thing. The wide angle lens also did a decent job in most scenarios. It is also slightly wider than both the iPhone 15 and S23's wide angle camera, and of course you can take 2x digitally cropped zoom pictures, which can come in handy sometimes, but it surely can't replace the details you get from a dedicated telephoto lens. Now the selfie camera is also good. It can take some great pictures. Now Pixel, unlike Samsung and Apple, relies more on the post image processing, and that's not a bad thing, but in some scenarios you might feel that the viewfinder on the front camera would show a rather softer picture, but all the magic actually happens after you click that picture on a Pixel. And that is probably the best way to summarize this camera system. All the magic happens after you click the picture. Now, I'm yet to test out the AI features extensively, but I did use the magic editor, and I would say it's a hit or a miss. At best, you really need to know when can you actually use it, but when it works, it is very impressive. This is a quick video sample from the primary camera of the Pixel 8. I'm shooting in 4K at 60 FPS with standard stabilization, so you can get an idea of how stabilized it is, and then also the audio. So it's surprisingly windy here in Delhi NCR. So I thought I'll put the magic audio eraser to test. So right now there is a lot of wind, but there is also a little bit of background noise, and I'll keep switching the toggles up and down so that you get an idea what the magic audio eraser can do. Okay, a couple of other things. We get about 4500 mAh battery on this smaller Pixel 8 that was able to give me about 6 hours of screen on time, but again I think it's too soon for me to give any verdict on the battery life, and of course this phone will learn my usage patterns. What I was impressed by was the standby drain, because 8 hours of standby during the night only saw about 1 to 2% of battery drop, which is acceptable. But again, what is not acceptable are the charging speeds on the Pixel 8 for this price. Now Google would actually tell you that they're giving 27 watts of fast charging with the Pixel 8, but that 27 watts only work up till about 50 to 60%, because post the 60% mark the charging speed actually dips down to maybe 15 watts or 16 watts, and after 90% it dips down to maybe 3 watts at max. Now we still get the same optical in-display fingerprint scanner, which is not as fast as the S23's ultrasonic fingerprint scanner for sure, but I didn't really have a lot of problem. And in fact, the face unlock has improved, and Google is using some AI magic to actually make it more secure so that you can actually use the face unlock on the Pixel 8 with your banking apps. And yes guys, this was my 2 days with the regular Pixel 8. Now the cellular reception with Jio in Gurgaon was decent. I didn't really notice anything abnormal. I didn't face any call drops or something like that, but I will keep using the Pixel 8 for the next 2 weeks extensively as my daily driver. And I might as well do a detailed camera comparison between Pixel 8, S23 and iPhone 15. So if you want to watch that video, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to TQnet so that you get to watch that video first, follow me on social media, and you know what to do, right? Keep asking, and I will see you in the next one.